Hi everyone, Suzanne Davis here, author of The Appointed Hour and university professor. Welcome to How to Create a Writer's Life. Today we're talking about the 5 fundamental techniques of fiction and a bit about how to work with them. 5 fundamental techniques of fiction are character, plot, point of view, setting, and dialogue. Your characters, obviously, are the people, animals, extraterrestrials, the objects, the subjects of your story. The plot is the events of what's happening with your story, in your story, but with the causal element of why. So E.M. Forster said, the story is the king died and then the queen died, whereas the plot is the king died and then the queen died of grief. So the plot gets embedded underneath all the action of your story. Dialogue. The dialogue is your characters talking to each other. Yes, we all know that about dialogue, but there's more to it than that, more ways to work with it. So character dialogue might be your characters talking to each other, but dialogue is also possibly monologue. Think of Hamlet. You can also have your characters' inner thoughts, and those inner thoughts are very valuable aspect of creating the story to give some of the internal sense of what's going on inside a character. Setting. Setting is one of the techniques that I really love, and sometimes I think that it gets a bit shortchanged in American fiction. When you think about the world from which your characters arise, that world that they come from and that the world that they exist in creates a kind of interesting opportunity both for tension within the character but also conflict between characters. So as you think about what you're writing, I would encourage you to really think about the setting as a part of making a rich story. Point of view. Point of view is like the camera, so it's the lens through which the story is told. So you may have the first person point of view, which is very popular now in fiction and uses the I narrator. Or you may have the second person point of view, which uses the you narrator. That not so typical, but very effectively done for certain kinds of stories. Or the third person point of view, which uses the he, she, they narration. And within that third person point of view, you can have what we call a limited third person point of view, which would mean that perhaps that's the point of view that follows the main character, for example, and gets inside their head but not into the heads of the other characters. Or you can have a more distant third person point of view which shifts and gets into the heads of other characters besides the main character. There is the very classical omniscient point of view, which is the godlike narration, and which knows everything about the story, including points of views of characters and more about the story. That seems, it's a bit antiquated now. Think about it if you decide to use that point of view. So those 5 techniques are the fundamental techniques of fiction, and we put them together in what we call scene. Scene is the building block, and it's the picture that we're creating with words that sort of puts the reader inside of a story. We'll talk more about scene in another video. If you have liked this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, comment, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.